Well, the Legacy Podcast, we're looking back today at 2024, sort of an exit interview. I'm Jed DeMusi. Tim Bratz is over there. Typically you host. We're kind of putting you under the microscope here as we look back at 2024. And you've got a lot going on. I mean, we try to get content shot with you, and you're on your phone, you're blowing up, you're sending emails, you're doing all kinds of stuff. So we are aware that you're a very busy person and that the coaching aspect of your businesses is just one aspect of them. But maybe we'll start there and maybe touch on investments and obviously some big software stuff coming up in 2025. But in terms of legacy wealth education, what are some of the big takeaways from 2024, good and bad? What did you learn? What do we need to do better next year?
Oh, dude. Yeah, so I think, good question. And I think it'll be a pretty cool topic because I know a lot of people have been talking about, dude, I heard billion-dollar debt funds say this, and I've heard institutional lenders say it, and I've seen, obviously, on social media, is like a lot of people have been saying, like, survive till 25, right? The overarching idea here has been, it's been a tough year for a lot of people, especially in commercial real estate. Dude, for us, and I realize it, I know you guys realize it because I've just been back into the friggin' operations side more heavily in 2023 and 2024 than I ever have in the past because of how much turmoil there's been in the real estate investment side of things. Like we were talking offline and I was saying, like, dude, if you look back at 2007 to 2009, a 2-year period of what happened in residential housing, prices dropped by 29% on average across the country. Mm-hmm. Dude, in commercial real estate, it's dropped by 20 to 35%, depending on the asset class, in 2022 to 2024. Same 2-year period. The difference is, and dude, we're talking about the Great Recession, right? Like the worst recession the country's ever had. That is in, it's in books now, and it's in social study classes and all this other stuff. Like based on how bad that was, because so many people were affected by it. Now, nobody's talked about how bad commercial real estate's gotten kicked in the crotch because it's a much smaller percentage of people that are affected by it. And so it was just as bad of a reduction in value because of the interest rates and the insurance costs and labor costs and supply costs and energy costs and all this other stuff. But nobody's really talking about it. But that's how much of a kick in the nuts it's been, dude, over the past 2 years. And so I've been really heavily back into the operations side, which has, affected all the other businesses and stuff too, because I wish I could just hang out and create content all the time and be all in the zone. And so I think that has been a tough part of 2024 is like, one of the, and we're goal setting and stuff for 2025, but like one of the things I want more predictability and more planning for a lot of the content and stuff. Like sometimes we just show up and we shoot, and that still goes really well because if you're an expert in your field, you can do that. And we bring on a lot of experts, and obviously I'm so in the trenches on the real estate side that I can talk very easily about what's going on and stuff. And so I think it's been both, right? Like there's a lot of influencers and coaches and stuff that are out there that aren't in the trenches, and I think that's one of the things that we have a leg up on everybody else because, dude, we've been in the trenches for a long time at a high level and still are. And we're probably the most active about talking about it, based on who we are. So I think that's a really, really good and strong component about who we are from a coaching standpoint of we're not just talking about it. We didn't do this in the past. We're doing it right now in today's market and, traversing the same issues and bottlenecks that everybody else is battling right now. So, that's a big piece of it. If you want, we can dive into the actual legacy family type stuff that we learned too about the coaching business.
That's interesting though. That I mean, from what I hear you saying is sort of there might be people who are doing more, but they're not talking as much about it. There might be people who are talking more, but they're not really doing that much. Yeah. And you guys are probably, in terms of you and the partners, probably that mix or that sweet spot of people who are doing a lot of stuff, but also being open and honest about the struggles, about the setbacks, about the pitfalls than most people who are just getting kicked in the nuts.
Oh, dude, look at how many people went dark on social media over the past 2 years who everybody, was posting about all their wins and stuff, and then they're not posting now. And myself, partially, right? If I didn't already have a team and you and Cameron that were going out and, actively posting on a daily basis all the different content and stuff that we shoot, like we batch this activity, right? We usually film on Wednesdays and we post the midweek videos on YouTube, and we post the Legacy podcast on YouTube on Sundays, and then you're taking all of that, cutting it all up and posting it into Reels and all this other stuff on a daily basis. If we didn't create this team back when times were good, there's no way that I would have had the time to then create this today or over the past 2 years. And you've seen that, right? People who were just trying to like dip their toe in the water, and then they went dark, and they're completely dark today because they didn't have a team built previously, and they didn't have a plan in place previously like we did. And so, even though there's been stressors in the real estate operation side of things, I'm super thankful for the amazing team that we have on the coaching side, and we've been able to still continue to, create a lot of content about that. I think about Post versus Kellogg back in like the 20s, and especially during the Great Depression. When the Great Depression hit, Post had majority of the market share, dude, and they said, "Hey, we got so much market share. The Great Depression's happening right now, and people aren't spending as much money. Let's cut back on our marketing efforts." And so they cut back on their marketing efforts, thinking that they would just maintain the same customer base, right? Where Kellogg understood marketing is an investment. Marketing has a return on it if you spend a lot of effort and time and energy and money on marketing. And it's the lifeblood of business. And Kellogg went deeper and spent more money on marketing in order to gain more market share.
Yeah.
And dude, by the time 1929 to 1934, when the Great Depression ended, Kellogg took market share from Post so much so that they became the primary brand. And dude, look at today. Now we're 100 years later, or 90 years later. Kellogg is a $15 billion company. Post does $3 or $4 billion a year, right? Substantially, this divergence happened because of somebody who focused on marketing as an investment during a tough time, and somebody who went dark during that tough time. So I think it's just going to compound over and over and over again going forward.
Yeah,
in a good way for us.
Seriously short-sighted from Post. If somebody were to start a coaching program, or somebody wants to grow a coaching platform, we have some members I know, just talking to them at our recent meetup, that are looking to kind of get into that space. What sort of advice would you give them based on sort of what we've been through the past couple of years? Would it be make sure that you're out there as frequently as you are? Is that a big part of it?
I think being top of mind is a very big deal, right? And I think being active in the business that you're trying to teach is a very big deal too. People talking hypotheticals, they like one of the things that we've noticed over the past 12 months is like, let's get back to our niche, right? I think we went from multifamily to commercial real estate to all real estate to entrepreneurship and business, and like we went so wide. And the reality is, dude, let's go back to being the multifamily folks, because that's what we're really known for, and that's what we're really, 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 really good at. We're really good at all the other business stuff, and people learn that once they're in our ecosystem. Yep. But I think being niche is critical in whatever type of coaching and mentorship that you're looking to do. There's a saying, niche makes you rich, right? And so the more niche you are, you can eventually go wide. But the reality is, dude, our mastermind is meant to be a multifamily mastermind. Our coaching is meant to be multifamily coaching. Now you can take the nuggets from that and go into any other asset class and be super successful. And you've seen that as representative of members of Legacy Family, right? We have mobile home park investors. We have construction, new development, land developers. We have people who are in retail and office and self-storage and industrial and Airbnb, and are just big flippers that then passively invest, or they're in a completely different track of business and they're members of our mastermind because they invest, or they're vendors, or they somehow comes back to multifamily. Mm-hmm. And so that's created a lot of clarity this year of like, dude, let's just go deep. And we've seen, some attrition in the coaching side of things because of how tough the market has been, and how much has it picked up just in the past 30 days, right? And you see that, you are subject to what's happening in the marketplace, but I think our team's done a phenomenal job of like getting back to the basics, the blocking, the tackling, right? And really doing the things that matter when it comes to revenue generating activities, and we're really, really focused on what that is and who our avatar is, and getting back to the basics, I think, is a great thing to do when you go through tough economic times.
Sure. On the investment side, obviously not a side of the business that I'm really involved in at all. I just know basically some of the things that I hear from you. I do know, based on some of the things that you've said on social media, in the last month, you've been able to raise $7 million, with almost half of that due to asking people if they need depreciation at the end of the year. In totality, what did 2024 look like from the investment side for Legacy Wealth Holdings?
Yeah, good question. I think from a standpoint, when I look back at 2024, I think we all want things to move faster than they do in real life, right? I think, this is a quote that I say all the time to Legacy family members, and I preach it, is, we all overestimate what we can do in 12 months and grossly underestimate what we can do in 3 to 5 years. And I think that was very telling of what 2024 looked like for us. We had all these things that we wanted to do and all these changes we wanted to make in the business, and dude, it just takes longer. It's a slower moving vehicle. The rates kept on rising, and then all of a sudden they plateaued, but it was still like pretty painful, and people didn't come out of the woodwork to want to invest again, really until Q4, and really halfway through Q4. And so we expected to sell off a big chunk of our portfolio earlier part of 2024 in order to focus on some different things that have really, really high potential for us moving forward, and that didn't happen. But just in the past 60 days or so, we've contracted about a little over 1,000 doors that we plan on exiting, mostly because they were stepping stones for what got us to where we are, right? These are properties we purchased 5 years ago, and maybe C-class, or maybe heavy value add, or maybe in markets that we just don't have a team. And for us, it makes sense to just kind of, again, get back. I think in business, you grow and you refine. You grow and then you refine. And that's one of the things. 2024 has been a lot of refinement for us, where we're trying to sell off some things that are just out of state. Oklahoma, I don't have anything else in Oklahoma, so we sold a building in Oklahoma. I'm in the process of selling something in Illinois because I don't own anything else in Illinois. I'm in the process of selling stuff in Louisiana because I don't own anything else in Louisiana. My team is in the Carolinas and Ohio, and that's where we're buying from now on. And so that's really what we're focused on moving forward on the investment side, is just those properties. So I think a lot of times people want to grow by adding things to their plate. You can equally grow by removing things that are distractions.
What would your advice be? Because I guess if I'm listening for the first time and maybe they're stumbling upon you for the first time, they would say, well, you didn't own anything in Oklahoma before you bought the thing in Oklahoma, so why'd you buy it? What would your advice be, or why did you have these properties? I'm sure it's a means to an end to some degree, to get into some things so that you can sort of just build that portfolio.
Yeah, so Legacy Families are mastermind, right? We also offer a 2-day training called Commercial Empire. Commercial Empire is really what kind of I built my brand on originally. I partnered with a publishing company. They did all the events and stuff. I brought the content and I did the coaching, and then they just paid me like a royalty. I didn't even own the brand until 2020 happened, and the live event business went out of business. They owed me some money, and we cut a deal that I just bought the brand back, right, in order to forego some of the money that they owed me. So a lot of things that have happened with Commercial Empire. Commercial Empire was built on, if you want to scale your rental portfolio, bring it to me, and I will teach you on how to scale it. And maybe I'll bring some money to your deal, or I'll sign on a loan for your deal. And there's people from all over the country that came to Commercial Empire. And when they brought me deals, there were a lot of deals that made a lot of sense. And so I signed on the loan and brought some money to a couple deals for somebody in Texas and in Oklahoma and in Louisiana and in Illinois and in Florida and in North Carolina and South Carolina and a lot of Georgia. And so it sounded good, but as soon as things tighten up, you realize that all of a sudden I'm babysitting adults, right? I have to train them on everything. I have to make sure that they're doing their job. They saw the flashiness of finding deals and raising money and closing on a deal, and they thought the work ended there. That's where the work begins in real estate, in commercial real estate, especially in value add commercial real estate. And as soon as it got harder, as soon as like real work came to the table, like dude, I've had to take back almost every deal that I sponsored a loan on or brought money for somebody because they've all gone off and started doing their own thing and completely neglected the project that they made a commitment on with me. And so it's been a lot of learning lessons in that. Like I don't sponsor loans for anybody anymore other than my own team, my own deals, and potentially somebody I've done, work with and done business with on an ongoing basis that I know has their shit together. I'm not bringing money to other people's deals anymore. I'm not a good passive investor anyways. We're very active in everything that we do, and we're very involved, and we want to have decision-making capabilities. If I'm going to bring my money or my investors' money to a deal, there's no way that I'm just going to kind of like let it loose and let it fly with whoever the new person is. And if they haven't done 1,000, 2,000 units or more, I'm probably not going to bring money to that deal either. So there's just a handful of people that you see how they operate in good times and you see how they operate in bad times. And do they do the right thing? And do they have the capability of turning the ship around if, economic winds blow the opposite direction? Can they fix the positioning of the ship? And if they cannot do those two, if they're not a good person, they don't have good core values, they don't do the right thing, and they don't have the ability and the resourcefulness to take a bad situation and make it a good situation, I'm not doing a deal with that person anymore.
Yep. And you've earned that, right? You've earned that right to not put yourself out there because you've got enough stabilized properties under ownership that maybe you take that risk 3 or 4 years ago that you don't have to now.
Yeah, and I think it was a learning lesson too. I didn't know the blind spots, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I was sponsoring other people's loans. And a lot of them turned out great regardless of the trouble that we had. A couple of them we lost money on. The investors never lost money. And I've had people who said, hey, I've had some partners that were like, yeah, I'll eat my share of that and I'll contribute X number of dollars. I've had other partners who were like, no, I'm not contributing. And like, I helped them get into the business. And then they went off and focused on their own deals, neglected this one. We lost money and they don't want to carry their portion of the loss or carry their portion of the weight. And so it's just really telling on how some people respond in tough situations. And those are people I'd never want to do another deal with. And hopefully other people realize that they don't do the right thing either. And so I think, and then the other thing would be, dude, there's acres of diamonds in your own backyard. Mm-hmm. I don't need to go outside of Northeast Ohio, where most of my operations team is located, or out of the Carolinas in order to become a billionaire, right? Not saying that that's the goal, but like you can build an insane business, an incredibly large business, and have unbelievable lifestyle by doing deals in your own backyard. You don't have to go into new states, new markets, because every time you do, you're essentially starting a new business, right? You got to go and figure out who the title companies are, who the insurance agents are, who the attorneys are in those areas, who the contractors are, what the building department looks like, what the eviction courts look like, who the management companies are. Like there's all these, you got to set up a brand new team in every new market you go to. You have to learn the laws, learn how everything works. And it's like, dude, there's a learning curve that comes with that versus Cleveland, Ohio. Dude, there's some pain in the ass aspects of investing in Cleveland, Ohio. There's point of sale inspections. They have this unbelievable lead-based paint thing that they implemented a few years ago that's like expensive and pain in the ass to remediate, and it has to be inspected every few years. And so like, if I'm a new investor coming to Cleveland, you might get your clock cleaned on a couple of deals before you learn your lesson. We've already learned all those lessons. We're intimately familiar in the marketplace. We know, which areas are more tenant friendly versus more landlord friendly. We know which areas, have higher utilities or lower taxes and all that kind of stuff. So like, we've already navigated that. I already know that. I'd have to learn that if I go to a new market. Versus in Cleveland, dude, I just know that. My team knows it. We're intimately familiar. Everything we own in Cleveland, Ohio is at 95 to 100% occupied. Everything. Because we intimately know it and my team is right there. So it's like, I don't think you need to go wide. I don't think you need to go into new markets. I think you go deep into the market that you already know. And that's a question I get all the time from, especially, people in New York or California or Miami, and they're trying to find a more of a cash flowing market. You don't need to find a bunch of them. Find one and just go deep. And I would typically find a new market only if you know somebody that you trust with your bank account and you trust with your life to go into that market, and they must intimately know that market.
Yeah. So I know we are going to next week talk about 2025 and what's on the horizon, but I know sort of one of the things behind the scenes that's been a big part, at least that's taken up a lot of your mental capacity in 2024, is the software, is smart management, and that is coming to market in 2025. What do you want to say about that process that's led us here to the end of this year, as this thing is finally going to be available next year?
Yeah, so smart management is a software that came out of necessity, right? It was originally thought, and Brian Fast, my partner, and I sat down, dude, it's been at least 3.5 years. Yeah, it was summer of 21, might have been summer of 20. And so it's been 3.5 or maybe 4.5 years since this idea originally came to be. We had bought an apartment complex. He was a big investor in this, and he's a software engineer for one of the biggest firms in the country. And it's the software engineering firm that Fortune 500 companies use in order to fix software engineering issues, right? Boeing works with them, Disney works with them, Tesla works with them. And he's like the fixer of the software engineering company that fixes things for Fortune 500 companies, right? So he knows his stuff. He makes a bunch of money, invested 7 figures into a deal with us, and was hopping on the weekly asset management calls and just realized that, dude, everything was all over the board, right? There was a software for CRM and a software for workflow management. We had QuickBooks open because that didn't integrate with our property management software. And then there were Google Drives, and there was a bunch of shit written on a whiteboard that nobody else could see who's on the call. And like, none of these programs talk to each other. So the original idea was, let's bring everything into one central hub. Everything talks to each other. You only need this one software. You don't need 5 softwares. And we can build it and offer better software at a lower price than anything else on the market. And that was the original idea. And then all this AI stuff started coming out in like 2022. And so we started integrating AI. And so we have artificial intelligence on a bunch of the marketing aspects of things, where you take a picture of the room, it measures the floors, it measures the walls, it tells you how much paint you need to order, how much flooring you need to order. You can press a button and it'll drop ship it right to your property. And it also takes the picture and turns it into a floor plan, and it'll furnish it. You can use it for marketing photos. And it's all done through artificial intelligence. And then there's, tenant interaction, where there's a tenant now who might email you or text message into you, and it's AI that actually responds to the text message and helps troubleshoot problems. Their HVAC doesn't work. It'll look up the user manual of the HVAC unit and then read through the entire thing in 3 seconds, and then give, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And troubleshoot the problem with the tenant and teach the tenant how to go and do the work, so that way you don't have to send a maintenance guy out or call a vendor out, and it eliminates 90% of maintenance issues. So it's like, those are a couple little components of smart management that have been integrated. And originally it was, yeah, hey, it'd be great, have a software, I'll throw a couple bucks at it, we'll see what happens. And then I saw how much traction it got. I saw how much traction, how really user-friendly it is, and how much functionality it has to it. And it started getting a lot more of my time, a lot more of my attention, to the point where I'm selling $100 million of my real estate portfolio in order to clear out some space, in order to really dive deep into smart management. So the goal is to launch smart management in Q1 to the general public, and offer a solution that takes all those things into one at a lower price point. That is a far superior, and dude, I've used all of the property management softwares, and this smokes all of them at a lower price point than any of the other ones offer, and has more potential. And so, from a SaaS, software as a service type of a business, it's really exciting because I'm a big believer in residual income, and this offers residual income, but it also has a higher multiple and enterprise value that's more scalable than real estate is. So I'm still a real estate guy. I will forever buy $50 to $100 million of real estate every single year until however old I am. But the software side is like, I can take that to $1 billion portfolio in the next 3 to 5 years, $1 billion business in 3 to 5 years, just by the influence that we have in the space and the connections we have in the space, the legacy family network that desperately needs something like this, and how good of a product it is, and how much of a need it is in the overall. When everybody else in the commercial real estate world is trying to cut costs, this is a way to cut costs, and it shows you and it thinks through it your P&L on ways to increase your income, ways to decrease your expenses. And so it'll shop your insurance, it'll shop your and tell you if you can appeal your property taxes to a lower rate. It'll shop your supplies, your materials. You can actually eliminate some of the staff personnel at one of your properties and save a $60,000 a year salary because this does so much stuff for you. Where now, you're not only saving $60,000 a year, but at a 6% cap rate, that increases the enterprise value of that building by $1 million. And so it's really exciting, especially when coming out of this shitstorm that commercial real estate has come out of over the past 2 years, to have something like this that's available, because it's been such a pain point for so many people that this is the solution that everybody's going to be looking for.
Yeah, I've been around you for 20 years. We've been friends for a long time. Maybe the third Lord of the Rings movie, I don't know if I've ever heard you talk about something with such anticipation, with such energy as you have smart management. And
such an asshole.
Outside of some of those movies that are 8 hours long that really don't have a point, this smart management stuff has been great. And just as somebody on
this
your
dude
team,
doesn't like Boondock Saints. Can you
your,
believe it? He's
in
like
your ecosystem, I'm excited for it to come to market as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that next week when we look ahead to 2025.